Hello, my name's Megan. I'm an art therapist, and I'm going to just share some of my experience of online group work for children with shared needs. And all the images and quotes in this presentation have been given with permission. Next slide, please. So there was an opportunity to run two 6-week online groups at Alder Hey Children's Hospital in Liverpool. In response to Alder Hey's needs, so where they had funding and where there was lots of psychological input already, and the impact of the pandemic, we decided to offer these group places to the respiratory team. Each session would last 1 hour and there was a weekly theme. And I had a co-facilitator called Olivia, who's an assistant psychologist based in Alder Hey. So she had access to patient notes and her NHS email address, so she did a lot of the corresponding with our group members. It turned out that the referrals that we got were all children who were being treated for cystic fibrosis. I'm not sure how much people know about cystic fibrosis here, but I wasn't aware that children with cystic fibrosis can't meet in person. So it's to do with the way that their lung bacteria develops. It's very dangerous for that to cross-contaminate. So this was a real area where online working would have a lot of impact. So each group member got sent an art pack, and we set up 2 groups. Have the next slide, please. So the first group was under 11s. I think that's in England, is primary school age. And this group really embraced the video working. So as soon as we turned it on, they all had their screens on, they had their microphones on, and you could see what they were doing. It was quite difficult at first to see the artwork. So we would have children holding things up to the screen, but it was quite difficult to see. So that was something that we had to adapt to. So they did a lot of describing their artwork as well. But they also used Zoom quite a lot, the different technologies. So we had them using emojis. So if someone was describing their artwork, they would use little heart emojis or thumbs up emojis to support each other or to share their feelings. They also used the chat sometimes. So they would write things in the chat if they maybe didn't want to speak. And they used the background. So an example of that would be one girl was talking about how she'd like to go to the Olympics, and another group member changed his background to an image of the Olympic rings. And in this group, they really used artwork a lot. So if one group member had made a landscape and another had made an image of a figure, they would imagine that figure in the landscape. Maybe there was a monster. How would they overcome this? Whose artwork would be helpful for them to overcome this monster figure? So they really had the opportunity to exist together through the images. And there's a lot of peer support within this group. Can I have the next slide, please? In the second group, we had over 11s, and this was very different. So as soon as we turned on, they all had their cameras off and their microphones off. And we really didn't get to see them actually making their artwork. We had one who had her camera on, but no one else did. And we got emails beforehand about group members being anxious about joining and not sure whether they wanted to come along. And in fact, in the first session, for the first 20 minutes, we had 3 of the group members logging on and off and on and off. So they were coming in and out of the session. But after that, after the first session, they all stayed till the end. And this group actually had better attendance than the younger group. So they wanted to be there, but they wouldn't turn their cameras on. So I suppose the reflection on this age group is that what we got feedback from psychology was there was a lot of reluctance to talk about their condition, to share with people any of their experiences. At this age, they have a genetics lesson where they learn about their outcomes with cystic fibrosis, and they're far more aware of their condition than the younger group. So this group really used the chat function a lot. So we would ask a question and you just had to adapt to the idea that you would ask a question or make a comment and you'd have to wait for everyone to type in what they wanted to share. And I always read out the chat because that gave it a voice in the group and everyone would know what was going on. But we did give them opportunities to share their artwork. So sometimes that might be turning on the cameras and they would hold the artwork up to the screen. So we never saw them, but you would see the artwork. We also had opportunities at the end of the session. So I would stay back an extra 5 minutes and 2 group members in particular would stay back, and that's when they would show what they'd made throughout the session. And we also had email addresses. So through the NHS email, they could send images, and I always made time at the beginning of the next session, we'd discuss any of the images that they'd been sent in. Okay, can I have the next slide, please? So I'll just quickly talk about one of the sessions. So in the third session, for each group, they were asked to make 3 images. The first image was something that they'd like to leave behind in the past. The second image was something from now that they'd like to hold on to. And the third image was something that they would like for the future. And this session was the first time that any of the group members talked about their condition, cystic fibrosis. So for the younger group, they almost exclusively put cystic fibrosis as their first image, something that they'd like to leave behind. And we had images of monsters, medical treatment, we had physiotherapy and pictures of them feeling upset. And this gave them an opportunity to have conversations amongst themselves about their condition and their experiences. So an example would be, we were talking about physiotherapy image, and one of the group members said, oh, I'm only allowed to not do physiotherapy on Christmas and my birthday. And then other group members say, oh, your mum's really strict. I sometimes get Sundays off. And just having that normal conversation with other people who have that same experience was really valuable for these group members. In the second group, the older group, they brought up CF for their third image, so something for the future. And this was images of science and technology, different ways of combating the symptoms of cystic fibrosis. So we had a suit that would stop you feeling these symptoms. We had scientific equipment and images of what a cure might look like and how they would live if they had a cure. And these children then started discussing their treatment plans and their hopes for the future with each other, so they could share different treatments that they'd had. Some were on different plans to others, so they got that opportunity to have a discussion with each other about their experiences and their shared experiences, or how some of their experiences were different. And this was all via the chat function in this group, but it still flowed and they were able to discuss this. Can I have the next slide, please? This is just some of the feedback that we had from these sessions. So I'll read it out. After the first session, psychology received a call from a member of the younger group to express his excitement that he had made a real friend. His father then came on the call and said that this boy was very happy to spend time with other CF patients and couldn't believe that there were other people just like him. The respiratory team fed back they'd noticed that during interventions in the hospital, group members were talking about the other kids with CF, which hadn't happened before. They existed almost in a bubble. They didn't talk about other patients. We've got a quote, I really enjoyed the sessions. It's given me a boost to my art capacity and confidence. Thank you for the sessions and the lovely people. That was someone from the older group. And also in terms of the art pack, some of the feedback was, I liked knowing that everyone had the same stuff in their art packs, and getting sent it made me feel like you cared about the group and that it was important. It's also building a sense of community. They knew that they were all using the same materials as well. Olivia, my co-facilitator, also fed back that she felt more confident, maybe using creative skills and being in the moment and thinking outside the box when working with children. Next slide, please. So alongside the group work, there was also an opportunity over the half-term break to make 6 art therapy workshops. And that was opened up to all departments of Alder Hey Hospital. So patients and siblings and all of the different areas. Kirsty helped us use the Teapot Trust website for sign-ups, so they would get an information pack and then they would go onto the website and sign up. And our main themes for this were communicating feelings, self-confidence, resilience, and also promoting creative therapies. Because there was going to be a lot of people on the calls, they were non-interactive, so we asked everyone to have their cameras and microphones turned off. And usually we had between 10 and 15 people on each call, but these included sibling groups that were up to, I think the biggest one was a group of 5 children all on one call. So in this, I used video. So I created videos that I would show and then talk over. So can I have the next slide, please? And these were also turned into resources that Alder Hey have been able to keep and can use in the future. So each video I would demonstrate the activity and I would talk over, and this was really a guidance for things that they might like to think about while they're using artwork. One of the concerns was that maybe they would just copy the video, but I think you'll see in the examples that that didn't happen when we were sent the images later. That wasn't what happened. So the first image there you can see was a self-portrait on a bag or a box. Then we also did things like colour wheels and thinking about different emotions to go with colours. And then these obviously have been turned into resources that they can use later. Next slide, please. So as you can see, this is some of the artwork that we were sent and I've been given permission to share. So that first image was sent by a young person who participated in the colour wheel workshop. And she's thinking about different colours and what they represented to her different feelings, and then how she could express her feelings using images. So you can see she's used blues and greys for anxious and scared, and she's got some images about medical interventions, and then she's got happy and calm colours and a few prompts for things that might make her feel happy, might make her feel calm. In the second image, this was a young person who joined in with our self-portrait workshop. So she did just a self-portrait of her eye, and across the top you can see moon and stars, and she said that that was because that was something that made her feel calm, that she enjoyed. She also used text across the top to write down things that she enjoyed, so music, different programs that she enjoyed. And across the bottom, she had names of people who were important to her and helped support her when she was feeling low. Next slide, please. And this is some of the feedback that we got from the workshops. So this child said, this was from a parent, is loving her workshops with you. Some of the things you talk about, she tells me about, others she keeps to herself, which is fine. Just very happy she's talking. These have been a great help to her on her scoliosis journey. Another parent fed back that they were happy that their child was not bottling things up as she approaches a major operation, and if art facilitates that, wonderful. The parent of the child who made the eye portrait said that I was a really reflective piece for her, and she felt quite uplifted when she realised all the good things in her life. Just easy to forget when you're anxious and in pain. And the workshop attendee said, I wasn't sure how these would be with leaders and nurses and people I don't know. Video calls are not my favourite thing. However, I felt intrigued at what art we would be doing. Then I realised it wasn't just art, there was a point to it all, and there were people there to help you think. I found myself enjoying being creative and kept on after the sessions. I was enjoying it so much. So next slide, please. That's my slides finished, so thank you. I don't know if there's time for questions now, but I'll be available later as well.